Baylor Director of Athletics, Mack Rhoades with us. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoke, David Smoke here in studio, just a little bit down the road off of I-35 and MLK, just a little bit west of McLean Stadium. And not far from last night's unbelievable atmosphere, the whiteout at the Farrell Center with Baylor winning their 5th consecutive game. Mack Rhoades joins us on 365 Sports. Boy, what a difference a couple of 2.5 weeks makes, Mack.
Yeah, it really does, right? And, again, just we use the word perspective and just trying to have, great perspective all the time. And obviously 0-3 didn't feel very good, but knew that still a really talented team capable of winning, a lot of games, a lot more games to be played, and there's still a lot more games to be played. So, but I think it's a team that you can see, on the floor that's getting better. And, again, Coach Drew and the staff have done a phenomenal job. And, again, it's, when you're in this business, it's really, really hard to enjoy it. It is. And it's really hard not to get focused on, each and every game and rather, make sure that you're focused on the process and that is right. And if that's right, then, the individual games, they'll end up taking care of themselves. But it's a big difference. And last night felt, really, really good. And it's, quite frankly, it feels maybe even a little bit better when you beat Kansas. And that's a testament to that program and who they are. And, there was, and you were there, Smoke, in terms of post game, but the talk about Coach Self was asked about Baylor and Kansas, and this budding rivalry, and the two schools that have been dominant within the Big 12 over the last 3 years, last 2 national championships, the 2020 season, right? COVID, both would have been number 1 seeds, and so. It's been a lot of fun, and they certainly are a great program, but so are we.
Mack, how does your mentality as an AD change when you win a national championship in something, especially something like men's basketball, which is highly competitive, and it's really hard to maintain, the consistency of where you finish because of the tournament. How much do you change the way you look at the program, and then how much you have to remind yourself that as long as we're pointed down this direction on the river, we have to kind of trust the process and ride and get through the rapids as opposed to reacting to every little bump?
Yeah, it's that's a really, again, thoughtful question. I think you process and you think about it. There's a lot of different ways, right? So one of them is, we've got to move forward like we've never done this before. That we're still chasing that, right? There can't be any complacency. You can't, let your foot off the gas pedal, etc. We've got to now. It's over, and we've got to reset and start that journey all over again, and be, as hungry as we were, the year previous. That we have to have that same hunger, that same fire in the belly when we think about going about our business and striving to be the very, very best. There's also the piece where things just naturally change. And, you think about, the team that won the national championship, and, I would describe it as an older team. And so now all of a sudden you win a national championship, and you think about recruiting. And, I think it even started, the year before when you're number 1 seed, all of those things, and the type of players, when you think about recruiting and now one and dones. Well, how do you manage that? And so, that's a whole new challenge. And, as you enter into that, how's that going to work? What are the positives? And there's a lot of positives to it. but there's also some negatives, and how do you manage that? And so, just knowing and understanding that because you won a national championship, there are going to be some organic changes that you're going to have to navigate. And then I think finally it's expectations. And, now, that's the bar, and everybody expects, that to be the outcome or certainly close to the outcome each and every year. And so how do you not get caught up in that and again, stay focused on process and really double down on the things that got you there. So, that's a little bit of, all of the things that we talk about and are intentional about.
Mack, I know you're getting tired of answering the question because it's been pushed back, delayed, whatever. We've even sensed your frustration along the way. 2 questions, though. It's January 24th, a week from today. It's the last day of January. Brett Yormark was in town. Did he and you discuss much more of the board about the damn schedule being released for football? And number 2, has anyone in the Big 12 that's a part of the original, at least even those leaving, has anyone suggested they didn't want to play anybody in the incoming 4?
So, I go back to our last a week ago. I do believe there'll be clarity on the schedule consistent with what Brett has mentioned or Commissioner Yormark has mentioned. By the end of this month, and so there's certainly still some days remaining, and I do obviously in communication with him, and I do feel like it's certainly trending in that direction, and it will happen. And the 4 new incoming, I think certainly the 8. There's never been conversation about not wanting to play, and then I think if there's ever been any conversation about the other 2, it's just been mainly tied to are we gonna be here, all the way up to the end of the contract? Are we not going to be up to the end of the contract? And so I think if there's been any of that type of conversation, it's always been tied to when they will no longer be a member of our conference.
Is there any chance that there could be more delays because anybody decides they don't want to play Cincinnati or UCF, Houston, Brigham Young? Is that even on the table? Is that possible to let happen?
No. That if, and again, I certainly don't, anticipate, not meeting, I guess the self-imposed deadline on, the end of January. But no, none of that, and that certainly hasn't been the cause for delay.
Mack, I know there's the whole announce your intent to leave and a certain amount of months, 18 months, what have you, but that can be flexible. Is there any sort of a drop-dead time frame in terms of Texas and Oklahoma, and if, in fact, this would be their last year, or if, in fact, they're going to ride it out for the 2 years remaining on the contract? When would you guys have to know that by, or need to know that by, want to know that by?
Yeah, Craig, I think if you get kind of backed into that timeline, I mean, for me, I think absolutely you'd want to know no less than 12 months in advance. You'd like 12 to 18 months, and I think that clarity will happen within that time frame, right? July 1, 2023 is when the 4 new become official members. So you certainly that 12 months from then, and so you back up from then, and so I think we're in this period of time, we're in this window right now as we speak that you would hope that we would know one way or the other.
Mac, we were discussing earlier today, Josh Heupel got a new contract, had a heck of a year, Tennessee's first 11-win season in 21 years, and he's going to get reportedly $9 million a year. Do you think college programs, athletic departments bid against themselves sometimes that have helped create the salary structures rising at a dramatic rate? I'm happy for Josh. We're happy for Aranda, whoever gets him. But are there times where it's hard not to bid against yourself?
Yeah, it is. And, the moment the one school does it, then, that's the new bar, right? And then everybody's chasing it. I think the real question is, how sustainable is that? And, there's more institutions than not when we think about Power Five. There's more institutions than not that cannot afford $9-10 million a year. There's only a handful that can, and so this is part of the conversation that's been going on within the NCAA that will continue to go on. Is we use the word sustainability, and sustainability with coaching salaries, sustainability with name, image, and likeness, etc. I don't believe, and I think most of us, I can speak for most of us, don't believe we're on a pathway of sustainability. And now you add into maybe through name, image, and likeness, more money's going to student athletes, and that conversation and how that competes, again with coaches' salaries, etc. So we're in this really dynamic time, this time of change, and as a leader, you better be an adaptive leader, and I think I've said this before. I don't know that there's any such thing as best practices anymore. We're kind of developing them as we go, and so apologize for the long answer, but there's I think we're all going to be pressed with a sustainability issue, and for us at Baylor, when you think about our number one and everybody's number one source of revenue is via the conference. And, that's derived through, TV, it's derived through CFP, it's derived through, men's basketball NCAA tournament. And so, you just, and you think about Baylor and, 45,000 seats, et cetera, we've got some limitations, and that's why I think we're so focused on our process, on our culture, because at the end of the day, if we're trying to compete against people, resource for resource, that's going to be really, really hard for us to do, and so we've got to find other ways, other nuances. The Christian faith piece for us. And, that's got to be, something that we double down on. And I think, can be an advantage for us. I think many people look at it as maybe a disadvantage, but it can be a great advantage for us. And so, just trying to navigate all of this and trying to make sure that, we Baylor continue to be nationally relevant in all of this. And, the conversation, I've had, quite frankly, with our head coaches as, we've got to look at this as a 10-round heavyweight fight. And we're going to take some body blows in the early rounds. And we are. And I think we're right in that process right now where we're taking some body blows. And, we had this pendulum when we think about, name, image, and likeness, and it was hung up here on the, on the right side, so to speak, and just building and building and building. And then all of a sudden, boom, you can do it. And because of all of the weight on it, momentum, it swung all the way over to the left. And that's where we are right now, trying to deal with it. and that's where we're taking some body blows because, we've done a great job of GXG has done a great job of raising money for it, etc. But again, if we're trying to match, some other, institutions, it's really difficult when you think about, the base of our donors and, our number of alumni and all of that. But that pendulum will gradually, slowly come back down and law of averages. And so, we're going to take some body blows, but as long as we continue to focus on our process, our culture, not stray from our Christian values, I think it's a fight in the later rounds. We're going to end up winning, and in fact, I know we are, and that's kind of how we process it and we look at it. But it's really hard when you're taking body blows and you're seeing some other schools do some things that you're just not going to do. And so again, that's quite frankly where we are right now.
Mack, you mentioned name, image, and likeness, and the University of Florida had an instance just a week ago where a recruit, a guy who committed, signed, asked and was granted his release from his national letter of intent because he had made a deal reportedly with a collective. They could not deliver on the money of that deal, and then all of a sudden the team, the school, and everybody's kind of sent reeling to do this. And one of those things we've talked about, guardrails and rules, especially with NIL, do we need to maybe in the new governance take down the facade that coaches and universities can't be involved in this on a higher level? Because Billy Napier has to just he knows what's going on, but he can't be involved. He can't tell a kid all of a sudden, like, hey, I don't know if these guys have the money. It just puts him in a weird spot all the way around. So how do we do this to protect all sides to where we don't have a situation like this where somebody says, here's this amount of money, and then they have to go and scramble to raise it, and they don't have it, and then everybody's kind of screwed in this?
Yeah, so, what happened at Florida, and, it's the ugly part of name, image, and likeness. And, to me, name, image, and likeness in its truest form and the way it was intended to be is a really, really good thing. But unfortunately, because there really weren't any guardrails other than, a bunch of different state laws, it's been chaos. And so what happened in Florida is part of that process where that pendulum is starting to swing back toward the middle. And it's starting to swing back toward the middle because there's, locker room issues and, maybe not being able to make a payment or pressure on a young person to perform at a high level and even more pressure. And they're not. And now all of a sudden, a donor's like, no, I thought we were going to win a national championship. We didn't. And so I'm not going to invest that much. Or, you told me that this player was, All-American and wasn't, so but that takes time and that's not going to happen overnight. So that's the pendulum, the ball swinging back toward the middle. My honest opinion, and again, I can only speak for myself, but I think name, image, and likeness needs to come back and be under the umbrella of the university. And it needs to be, for example, most likely underneath your fundraising arm. And this notion, we all read stories 20, 30 years ago, college athletics and boosters paying, student athletes. And, we have a school, unfortunately, up north that, had the death penalty because of, well, we basically set up that same system right now. It's crazy to think about that. And it's, for me, logically, it's really hard for me to wrap my mind around it. And so I think it needs to come under, the athletics department. And I think, there's a possibility, maybe 2-3 years that it can. And I think there needs to be a clearinghouse in terms of, maybe it's independent. It's, maybe it's not within the NCAA, but it's out the NCAA, and deals at a certain level, threshold and above, need to be looked at and approved closely. And there needs to be, a separate enforcement that it can be timely, it can be swift, it can be immediate. But that's, my opinion, and I don't think I'm alone in that. But that's where it needs to head, Paul. Is it needs to come in underneath. Now, that opens some things up to, Title IX and all of that, and, fairness in terms of who's receiving monies, et cetera. So, not by any stretch, not a perfect solution.
Mack, I was taking a look at y'all's the non-conference schedule next season, and it's Utah obviously heading to Waco, but Texas State as well. But is there any kind of an update on who that third non-conference game or when that might be determined or announced?
Craig, that's a great question, and my mind is scrambling in the memory banks, and I think we're there, but it's probably something. If you ask me next week, I'll have a much better answer.
Okay.
So I do think we're close, if not there, but certainly hasn't been anything that I know we're there, and just quite frankly going, man, I thought we announced it. So maybe we did, and I'll have a better answer for you in a week.
Mack, I know you brought this up with Craig and Paul last week. Last question for me, that the women's basketball team lost Sunday. I know Nikki has had to deal with injuries. They had Nalissa Smith and Egbo last year that helped win the Big 12 title. They've had the injury that hurt with Asia Blackwell. They've had the delay in the eligibility of Dre Edwards. But there's a fine line in what is elite and then just kind of there. How concerned are you? Not that Nikki can't coach or recruit, but is there a little bit of trepidation right now about where the program is?
No, not at all. Now let me make sure I'm really clear. That doesn't mean that any of us accept losing well, because we don't, and it's not our standard. But it goes back to process, and Nikki has my 100% support. She's an elite coach. We've had some different things happen. Unfortunately, when we think about injuries, which you just mentioned, or not having somebody eligible, we have young players. So we have a lot going on. But again, I think you think about the process. You think about who's leading the process, the accountability of the process, and I feel really, really, really good about it. We're going through a tough stretch, but we'll be all right. And I'm really, really confident about that. And the Baylor women's basketball program under Nikki Collin will be nationally relevant here in the future. There's no doubt in my mind.
All right, thanks for your time. By the way, the game day, the atmosphere yesterday was incredible. I know sometimes that not everyone's always happy with anything. I thought whatever the decisions that were made across the board, it seemed like it was just flawless, last night. And winning also helped.
Yeah, winning helped, and your opponent and selling it out and all of those things. But, our fan engagement team has done a lot of different things, right? They've tried new things. They've worked really hard about it. The DJ, the balloons, turning the lights down, during the game, all of those different things. And again, it's continual, right? But, I want, everybody to imagine, and first of all, thank you to all of our fans for coming out and making that an elite, environment. And again, hats off to, and really proud of our fan engagement team. But now you think, 11 months from now, when we go into the Foster Pavilion, capacity of 7,500, we have a real opportunity for that game environment that we all experienced last night to be every night in the Foster Pavilion. And that's why we made a decision, you know, to build new, to build smarter, smaller, to have, you know, steeper rake fans right on the court, because we want that environment that we had last night. We don't want it just 2 or 3 or 4 games, home games, a season. We want it every game, and that's the vision, and I think that's where we're headed. And again, just last night was a lot of fun. There was so much energy in the building, and really appreciate our students were awesome. Students were awesome, fans awesome, and again, you know, really proud of our fan engagement team.
Thank you, Mack. Appreciate your time. As always, Mack Rhoades, Baylor's Director of Athletics, with us on Tuesdays in this hour. So the schedule